Welcome to the deep dive. I want you to imagine something for a second. What if I told you that the absolute biggest food and beverage chain in the entire world has 60,000 stores globally, but only 5 in the United States?
I mean, that sounds like a typo, honestly.
Yeah.
60,000 locations basically makes them larger than McDonald's and Subway, but only 5 in America. You could visit every single U.S. location in, like, a weekend road trip.
Exactly. Well, that brand is called Mixu, and they, along with a few other just massive Chinese tea empires, are currently plotting this sort of stealth invasion of America, which is, the most coffee-addicted nation on earth.
It really is.
So today we are going through a whole stack of sources, market analysis, business profiles, street interviews, and our mission is to figure out how these companies plan to pull off a Starbucks-style takeover.
Right, because they aren't just trying to sell you a new drink. That'd be easy.
Exactly. They want to completely hijack your daily routine. Simply put, they want to change what you drink every single day.
And that is the core premise here. Exporting a beverage, that's just logistics. You put cans on a boat. But exporting a daily habit, changing what you automatically reach for at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that requires a completely different playbook.
Totally. And to understand that playbook, we have to look at this one specific person. Her name is Emily Chang. And her career is basically the perfect illustration for this whole wild role reversal.
Oh, her story's fascinating.
Right. So years ago, she was the chief marketing officer for Starbucks in China. Her literal job was to take a nation that has thousands of years of tea-drinking history and convince them to start buying American coffee.
Which is just a monumental task. She was trying to build a coffee culture in the exact place that practically invented tea.
Right, but here is where it gets really interesting. Today she works for Chagee. That's spelled C-H-A-G-E-E, by the way, but pronounced Chagee.
Yeah.
They are a massive Chinese tea chain.
Yeah.
And her new job is the exact opposite of her old one. She is now tasked with teaching coffee-obsessed Americans to drink Chinese tea.
The symmetry of that is just wild. It's like, it's like an Italian chef spending 10 years convincing Americans to eat deep dish pizza and then moving back to Italy to convince Italians to eat hot dogs. The script has completely flipped.
That is a perfect way to put it. But to see how she plans to do this, we need to look at how she actually succeeded at Starbucks in the first place.
Exactly, because that's the exact mechanism she is bringing to Chagee. When Starbucks entered China, they didn't just say, hey, here's some dark liquid that gives you energy.
Because that wouldn't work. You can get energy from a nap or a soda.
Right. Instead, they sold the third place concept, the idea that, you have your home, you have your workplace, and then you have Starbucks.
Oh, I see.
They built these beautiful, comfortable stores with nice lighting and free Wi-Fi. They made holding that specific white cup with the green logo a literal status symbol. They elevated coffee into a lifestyle accessory.
Okay, basically what this means is Chagee's trying to do the exact same thing in reverse. But wait, how do you actually make tea feel like a luxury status symbol in America?
It's a challenge, for sure.
Because for a lot of people listening, tea is just, something you drink when you have a cold. Or maybe it's just a sugary malt drink for teenagers.
Well, you have to change the aesthetics completely. If you walk into a Chagee store, it does not look like a cheap fast food kiosk. Not at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are investing millions into modern, sleek, minimalist interior design. Think premium lightwoods, clean lines, and really high-end packaging.
Like an Apple store, but for tea.
Pretty much. They want you to walk in and feel like you are in a premium boutique. They elevate the environment so that paying for a premium tea feels totally justified.
Yeah.
And holding their branded cup on your way to the office signals that you are trendy.
They wanted to be part of your outfit.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense for the high-end approach. But let's look at the actual reality right now, because frankly, these brands are practically invisible to the average American listener.
They are very quiet right now.
Right. Let's just run through the numbers slowly so we can digest this. First, you have Hey-Tea. Our sources label them as an upmarket brand, and they've opened over 40 shops in the U.S. since 2023.
Which is an aggressive pace, but still a very small footprint overall.
Then you have Chagee, Emily Chang's company. They have about 7,500 stores globally, but in the United States, only 9.
Yeah.
And then the giant I mentioned at the very beginning of the deep dive, Mixu, 60,000 outlets globally, 5 in the U.S.
The contrast there is just jarring.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. If they have bottomless pockets and tens of thousands of stores over there, why are they struggling to open stores here? And wait, Don't Americans already drink boba? I feel like I see boba shops in every city.
And that right there is the main obstacle. They aren't the first ones to the party. The mainland Chinese brands are running straight into the incumbent.
The incumbents.
Yeah, the established players who already own the good real estate and the customer loyalty. And in America, those incumbents are Taiwanese brands.
Ah, so Taiwan beat mainland China to the punch here.
By a long shot. Brands like Gongcha and Coco have been in America for years. Gongcha actually has over 240 U.S. stores right now.
Wow, okay.
These Taiwanese pioneers are the ones who did the heavy lifting. They educated the American palate. They're the ones who taught Americans the word boba.
Oh, and wait, the research had this crazy detail about that word. Boba wasn't originally a culinary term at all, right?
No, not at all. It actually originated as Chinese street slang for busty.
Which is just hilarious.
It really is. It was street slang that just eventually became the standard English term for bubble tea, specifically those large, chewy tapioca pearls at the bottom of the cup.
But you know, that little detail actually highlights a huge difference, doesn't it? The Taiwanese expansion felt very grassroots, like mom and pop shops adopting street slang and handwritten menus.
Yes, very organic.
But Chargi and Mixi are rolling in like these massive corporate machines with a highly funded, polished blueprint.
That is the exact contrast. The Taiwanese brands introduced the flavor to America, but the mainland Chinese brands want to industrialize the daily habit.
Got it.
But walking into a market where Taiwanese brands already have a massive footprint means you have to fight tooth and nail for every single customer.
Which naturally makes me wonder why bother. If the U.S. market is already full of Taiwanese boba shops, not to mention a Starbucks on literally every corner, why take the massive financial risk?
It's a huge risk.
Why not just stay in China where they are already, printing money?
Because they aren't printing money as easily anymore. Our sources, including this marketing agency called Kepler Mission Design, they paint a picture of a domestic market that is just incredibly cutthroat right now.
Yeah, the quote from the source that stood out to me was, "There is too much bubble tea brewing at home."
Exactly. Just think about the density for a second. When Mixu has 60,000 stores and Shangyi has 7,000, and then you add in dozens of other competitors, it's crazy.
They're everywhere.
Every single street corner, every mall, every subway station is totally saturated. And that triggers vicious price wars. They are slashing prices just to survive, which completely destroys their profit margins.
Oh, wow.
So to keep growing the business, they desperately need a new frontier.
So they are basically fleeing a war zone.
Fleeing a war zone and sailing toward a gold mine. To really understand the motivation, look at this stat from the brokerage firm Huachuang Securities.
Yep.
The U.S. coffee market is 28 times bigger than the freshly made tea market.
28 times. Let me just repeat that. 28 times. Basically, the coffee market is a skyscraper. The tea market is a tool shed.
Exactly. And that massive gap represents what the analysts call substitution potential.
Let's explain substitution really simply for everyone listening. It's kind of like the rise of sparkling water, right?
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
A brand like LaCroix didn't try to compete with your morning glass of orange juice. They didn't even try to compete with your morning coffee. They positioned themselves as the afternoon alternative to a Diet Coke. They didn't need to destroy the soda industry. They just needed to convince a tiny fraction of soda drinkers to swap out their 3 p.m. habit.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is a perfect analogy. Chagee is not coming for your 8 a.m. espresso. They know you need that to wake up and start your day.
Nobody is giving up the morning coffee.
Right. But they are coming for your 3 p.m. slump. Because the coffee market is 28 times larger, if tea can steal even a tiny fraction, like 3 or 4%, of America's massive afternoon coffee habit, the profits are astronomical.
But, theory is one thing. Actually getting someone to change their daily routine is incredibly hard. Let's talk about the mechanics here. How do you actually convince a busy office worker in New York to walk past a Starbucks and walk into a Mixu instead?
Well, it comes down to solving the problems that afternoon coffee actually creates for people. The first mechanism is the gentle lift. We all know that 3 p.m. feeling. You're dragging, you still have 2 hours of work left. But if you drink a cold brew coffee at 3 p.m., you get this immediate, aggressive spike of adrenaline.
Oh yeah, and then you get the dreaded caffeine crash at 5 p.m., right when you're trying to commute home. Plus, you end up staring at the ceiling at midnight because you can't sleep.
Exactly. It backfires. But tea offers a completely different chemical reaction.
How so?
Tea contains caffeine, sure, but it also contains an amino acid called L-theanine. And L-theanine actually slows the absorption of caffeine into your body.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of a spike and a crash, you get the sustained, smooth level of alertness. Customers are realizing they literally feel better physically when they choose tea in the late afternoon.
And then there's the health angle too, right? Because if you go to a major coffee chain in the afternoon, a lot of people aren't just getting black coffee. They're getting massive blended frappuccinos that are basically milkshakes.
They are just dessert in a cup, hundreds of calories.
Right. And these Chinese tea brands are leaning heavily into fresh, low-sugar options. You can walk in and get a fresh fruit tea with zero added sugar.
Yeah.
It satisfies that craving for a mid-afternoon treat, but it feels significantly healthier than drinking a giant cup of whipped cream and syrup.
Absolutely. But the most aggressive weapon they have, especially a brand like Mixu, is the price. Our sources followed a customer at a bustling Mixu store in New York, and this customer bought a spring oolong milk tea.
Okay.
It cost $3.99.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second.
That's okay.
$3.99. In
What?
New York City, where commercial rent is just astronomical.
Yeah.
I just bought an iced latte the other day, and it was almost $7 with a tip. How does a brand charge $4 and not go completely bankrupt?
That is where their massive scale back in China saves them. A brand with 60,000 stores does not buy ingredients from a middleman.
Oh, they do it themselves.
They own the entire supply chain. They own the tea farms, they own the factories making the plastic cups, they own the logistics networks. When you control every single step of the process, your actual cost to make one cup of tea drops to pennies.
Wow.
So they can afford to sell it for $4 in New York because they are leveraging this massive invisible machine they built in Asia.
So they are basically weaponizing their supply chain to completely undercut the American market.
Yes. And at $3.99, it just completely removes the friction for the consumer.
Right, because if a new drink costs $7, a customer might think, I'll just stick to what I know.
Exactly. But if it costs $4, they think, well, why not try it? It forces the trial.
Okay, so we have the smooth energy, the healthier profile, and the really aggressive pricing. But the research points to a third layer that I honestly find the most compelling.
The cultural side?
Yeah. Beyond the biology of caffeine and the economics of supply chains, there is a real cultural mechanism at play here.
The soft power of food and beverage, it's very real.
Right. There was this interview in the sources with the Chinese-American consumer, Eric Lai, outside one of these shops, and he verbalized something really subtle but really powerful.
Yeah, he said it feels incredibly good to just see non-Chinese people enjoying his culture's everyday habits.
And he noted the contrast with the geopolitical news, too, because if you turn on the television right now, the rhetoric between the U.S. and China is often really tense. Trade wars, political posturing, general anxiety.
But on the street level, you have people from all different backgrounds just standing in line together buying a $4 milk tea. It acts as this peaceful, everyday bridge between cultures.
It completely humanizes things.
It does. You walk into a store, you experience a different aesthetic, you taste a flavor that might be totally new to you, and for 5 minutes, the geopolitical tension just doesn't exist. It is just a totally positive, relaxed, normal transaction.
So what does this all mean? When you lay it out like that, the true scale of what these companies are attempting really comes into focus. It is not just a retail rollout, it's really a three-front war.
First, they have to win on the product level. The cheap price point, the lack of a caffeine crash, the fresh ingredients.
Right. Second, they have to win on the brand level, the whole Starbucks strategy, making the cup a status symbol and designing stores that people actually want to sit in.
And third, they have to win on the cultural level.
Yeah.
They are trying to convince a coffee-drinking nation to adopt an entirely foreign routine as their own.
It is just a massive gamble. But if they pull it off, the financial upside is almost unquantifiable. So, to everyone listening, the next time you're walking down the street and you pass a sleek, busy茶姬or a Mixu, don't just see a place selling drinks.
No, you are looking at a live experiment in reverse cultural exportation. They are trying to do to America exactly what American fast food did to the rest of the world 50 years ago.
It's wild to think about.
And you know, this raises an important question to leave you with. If a simple $4 cup of tea backed by a smart supply chain has the power to quietly cross cultural borders and ease international tensions on a street level, what other everyday mundane items in your life have the hidden power to bridge the gap between rival nations? What other simple habits are secretly connecting entirely different worlds?
Something to really think about the next time you hit that 3 p.m. slump. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the everyday world around you, and we will catch you next time.